There you go.
Okay.
Even
So this,
there you go.
this will stay with this, and these will both be brought up next meeting if you have any agreements on it. This needs brought up today. Okay, I'd like to call this Finance and Legislation meeting to order. Mr. Bass?
I'm here.
Mr. Ballack?
Here.
Mr. Bigley is present. In front of me I have three resolution and ordinances to go over. We'll jump right into the first one. This is a resolution of the City of Struthers to cooperate with the Ohio Department of Transportation, ODOT, and agree to participate in the cost of the construction at 20% of the resurfacing of Center Road from Lowville Road to Clingan and Elm Street from State Street to 5th in the City of Struthers and declaring an emergency. Mr. Benson, this is self-explanatory, but do you want to speak on it at all?
Yeah, this is a project we've been talking about for quite some time. So ODOT requires us, and the agreement is attached. It's a standard agreement that we get from ODOT. They fill in the blanks for each different project that we're working on. This project is $815,375. So it's a pretty big project, but it's two of our main entrances, Center Street and Elm Street, two of our main entrances in and out of the city. So
And this affects our road paving?
this will be our road
next
paving
year?
project for next year. This will occur in, I'm thinking, because ODOT fiscal year starts, we're halfway through their fiscal year. This will probably be paved in July.
Need a motion to bring it up.
I'll make a motion to bring it out.
Need a second?
I'll second that.
We'll roll into the second one. This is from Chrissy. An ordinance authorizing the auditor to transfer the sum of $45,000 from the 2022 general fund budget category transfer to police pension number 100, 9100, 59004 to the police pension fund number 8050000 47101 and declaring an emergency. Chrissy?
Standard,
Yep.
regular, transfer.
Anybody any questions for Chrissy? Motion to bring it out?
I'll make a motion to bring it out.
Second?
I'll second it.
Okay, yes, sir. This is the last one. This is also from the auditor. An ordinance authorizing the auditor to transfer the sum of $35,000 from the general fund budget category, transfer to pension, to fire pension, 100, 9100, 59005 to the fire pension fund, number 8100000 47101 and declaring an emergency. Chrissy, anything?
Nope.
Motion to bring it out?
Motion to bring it out.
Second?
it.
That is it for this evening's legislation that is to be passed tonight. Yes, sir. We can jump into the tax incentive, or there was one other thing I wanted to go over, which would be what was in my mailbox a few weeks ago with the ordinance regards to snowplow. Anybody have any preference?
That was just for knowledge. That was
Sure. Well, I think at this point,
Yeah.
but once we looked at it, we'll just go into that because it'll be quick. Once we go into that, once it was read, and I think everybody had read it, I know Mr. Ballack had read it, there is, I know that that was on prior to us, and I think most of us didn't know it existed, to be
Right,
honest.
and I was just bringing it out.
And in bringing that up to us, I think it's something that we probably should address. I don't think anybody who snowplows in the city of Struthers should have to get a permit. I could see it under bigger businesses and commercial, but like you said, Bob, the guy on your street does everybody's street for free. This guy shouldn't have to get a permit.
Right.
I mean, that's just foolish on our part. We're over-regulating something that,
The ordinance doesn't require a permit if you're not charging money. Only if you're a business and you're operating a business that is snow plowing are you required to get a permit.
it didn't say,
If you're doing it for free,
it doesn't say that.
like the neighborhood kid that comes and shovels, he's not gonna require to get
But
a permit.
if it's,
But
if
it-
it's a business, the tax department should probably already know that it's a
Right,
business.
well, exactly, and one of the ways we find out is by them getting a permit.
Yeah, but it doesn't the ordinance doesn't read like that when it was read.
Okay.
It truly doesn't. and that may be your intention to enforce it in that manner,
Right.
but that is not how the ordinance reads. It does not, correct, it does not stipulate business. That is one of the things that stood out to me and was bothersome.
Okay.
Okay? So I think if everybody's cool with it, I would like to change some things in there, bring it to council, see what everybody has to say about it. But I don't think, and honestly, like, we snowplow, we do more for free than we do for charge. We charge businesses. I end up doing 10 people, you're driving by their house, they need it done, you just do it. You don't charge them. So I think the only people we're really looking to keep up with, or should be, is businesses or somebody that's really benefiting from this. The guy who doesn't have a business that plows 5 driveways and makes $50. Should we care? I mean,
Well, the other part of the ordinance and requiring a permit is you give them knowledge on how they're allowed to plow, and the fact that they're not allowed to plow it across the street into a neighboring yard, that it still has to stay on the property that they remove it from.
well, I think that's another issue at hand.
So part of the permit, because the permit's not that much money, so part of the permit is also the education of what the city requires from the snow plow.
But I also think that's
that is almost impossible.
that's a problem in itself, and everybody snowplows.
And I'll be honest with you, I've never issued a snow plow permit. I don't know if it will happen this year either. But I also don't go out in the middle of the night looking for a snow plow.
I think they all know that you can't put it in the street.
And you can't put it on somebody else's property either.
Well, that's also something I'm going to look to change in the law. I mean, it's just you're asking for something that, first of all, is very difficult to do. You know that.
Why are we allowed?
Because we're providing a safety feature of clearing the roads.
Yeah.
And we're putting it on our easement, okay? So
Well,
we're allowed
technically
to take the snow off the road and put it into our easement, all right? But you're not allowed to take the snow from your driveway and put it in the neighbor's driveway or the neighbor's yard.
It wouldn't be the neighbor's driveway or yard because it would be the city's easement, the same way you're describing.
And you can do that. You can plow it out to the street, and then go up the street, plow it out, and plow it back onto the easement. That is permitted as long as it's.
Well, you're saying you plow it onto your own easement. You can't
on your
plow.
own easement.
But we can't do what you do and
No.
put it on the neighbor's easement.
No.
That doesn't seem fair to me. That seems like authoritarianism because what you are doing is saying it's okay for us to do it,
it's like
but it's not okay for anybody else to do
If we don't
it.
do that, and we allow the snow to sit on the road,
No,
over the course of time, your road will become wide enough for one car to pass.
but nobody's saying that.
Yeah.
What we're saying is I feel that the ordinance should be changed to meet something that you're allowed to put it on the neighbor's easement from the street,
Right.
but I can't push it onto the neighbor's
No,
easement
Because
from the
that's
street.
No.
that's not their snow, that's your snow.
That's right.
It should not go on the neighbor. It
I
should go on
disagree.
yours.
Well, and
Well, I
then,
disagree.
I disagree.
So we have a disagreement.
But also, I'm somebody who's worked in this field for a long time.
Right.
What you're asking to do is very difficult, very
it does
time,
require a little bit more
very
work,
time consuming.
because you have to push it out to the edge of the driveway, and then go up the street, come down, and plow it like a street plow would, and push it up onto the easement. That is one way.
But
Or if you're shoveling, it's a lot easier because you just throw it over to the side.
correct. But I just, in my experience in doing it, I don't know anybody who does it in the manner that the ordinance requires. You probably don't either.
I have seen people do it that way.
I've seen very few ever. I mean,
I don't do it.
yeah,
You're
everybody,
right.
correct.
Right.
Do people ever complain, or does it ever end
Some
up?
people-
If it ends up,
someone's, like,
if it ends up blocking their driveway, then
I
you
was
have an
gonna
issue.
say,
You
you
can't
plow
do that.
their yard and then you go up the street and you block my driveway?
Well, you can't do that. You
Well,
definitely can't block
driveway.
somebody's driveway, but also think of it this way. When the city plows the snow, do they block your driveway?
But that snow didn't come from my driveway,
Sure, it came from the
you
street.
know what I mean?
It came from the street. But I guess
You can't compare the clearing of the roads with clearing of a driveway. That's not the same comparison. The service that the city provides to clear the roads is not the same as somebody can take a shovel and shovel a driveway right to the side of their driveway. They are not forced to take it out into the street. Okay?
but there's also a lot of people who pay for a plowing service, right? Correct?
Yes.
So not everybody's shoveling a driveway.
No.
But I think just in retrospect, it also says on there it can't go on sidewalks or anything like that, correct? But
Right.
when we plow the snow, it goes on the sidewalk.
Right.
So I'm just kind of like, it's the same end result. I understand what you're saying. You're saying, well, it's coming from the street.
So-
But it's giving our residents the exact same result, which is the sidewalks are
Okay,
blocked.
so I come up the street and I plow everything to the side, everything to the side. And then you come out, and what I put on the side, you wanna plow from this driveway straight across and pile it up even higher.
Right.
So now I got a big pile sitting right there across the street, and this guy's coming out of the driveway and can't see down the road because the pile is higher than it should be.
But if I even do the same thing, and I do exactly what you're saying, it's
Yeah.
still the same result, because I put it in these people's
You're putting it in
driveway.
your own driveway.
But you still can't see. I mean, if you're saying it's a safety
If
concern
there-
on one side, then it's a safety concern on the
There
other
are ways to
side.
plow a driveway without putting it in a neighbor's yard. It takes longer, it's a little bit more work, but it is possible.
I understand that, but I really feel like, is that what we want out of our ordinance? And why, I understand that you're saying, well, you're not actively enforcing that, correct? And you're not out there looking for it.
I don't go out in the middle of the night looking for
Right.
people plowing, but
Well,
if
I
it-
also, in respect to our job, I don't want ordinances sitting on the books and you picking and choosing whether you're gonna enforce them or not, or whether you're looking for them or not. If you don't have to do them, then let's take them off the books. If they're not
Well-
worthy of being enforced, then.
well, they are worthy of being enforced. The question is, do we want to spend the manpower to do it? So when the neighbor complains and the officer goes up there and the officer says, where's your permit to plow? And the guy says, I don't have one. Then automatically the neighbor who's complaining wins. Right?
Why do you say that?
Because this guy's doing it illegally. He doesn't have the proper
What if you
permit.
do it for free?
Yeah, what if he's doing it for free? Or what if he doesn't own a
And then
business?
again, if he's doing it for free, he shouldn't be putting it on the neighbor's yard.
No, I think whether he's charging or not charging is irrelevant to where he puts the snow. I would say those are two things that really don't correlate. But however,
I
I
say
get,
do the neighbor's drive as well.
yeah, I mean, I guess,
I usually do after the snowplow.
who cares, you do,
I'm
yeah,
like
you-
this.
half the
I'm
time I
gonna
do
tell
a
you-
street.
I put it in my
And I
own,
will tell
I put it
you
in my
from
own
my
yard.
experience of 20 years on the street department, there's plenty of times where I will come down, a neighbor will plow their driveway out straight across the road and not quite get it off the road. They'll be sitting on the road right there next to the curb. Then I come up the curb lane with a plow and I hit that. Now if it's fresh, it's gonna bury that driveway, next driveway up the street. It's gonna be buried. If it's not fresh, I bounce off of it.
Well, you're saying that, but it's
Frozen
only gonna
snow.
be buried if you're talking about that there's 2 feet of snow.
Well,
If there's 2
most of
inches of
our-
snow, then it's
Most of
not.
our snow is, our driveways are set up, one's right here and then the next one's here. So when you go straight across the street, you're putting it in a path to plow the next driveway right there. That's why you don't want it in the street. So then you plow it across the street and you pick up your plow a little bit and you bump it onto their grass.
Which is
A
generally,
better option.
Sure.
generally what
That's a
people
better
do.
option.
Yeah.
So you just took all the gravel that was on the street, pushed it across and then bumped it up into the neighbor's yard.
I don't think you can get away from that, though.
The gravel, no.
Even when you guys.
No, you're
plow.
right, we do it also.
Yeah,
But you also look, and you'll see sometimes, when it happens all year long, there's one spot in front of the neighbor's yard that is really thick with the gravel. And that's where it came
I just
across.
think this is an over-regulation,
You-
in my opinion.
Coun-
And I-
Council sets the regulations.
But I
you
also
do
think it's
whatever way
that
you
based
want.
on the fact that this is something, you've been here for what, 2 years now?
Well, 1 year.
Okay,
But
have you ever had to enforce anything from the snow plowing ordinance?
no, this will be my second
And
year
I can tell you
into it.
this, that before you and before him and before him, I don't think anybody's ever enforced anything off of this snowplow
But I
ordinance.
will say this, it was written and put in there for a reason. We might not know that reason,
yeah, you're right.
but if you remove it, you
But
might
if
find
we
out
hadn't
the
known
reason.
incurred that reason in, do we know when that ordinance is from?
Usually what I find out is when I remove a
I
no
don't know.
parking sign,
2014.
nobody parks there forever. And I take the sign down because it's faded and I don't replace it, somebody's gonna park there. You take an ordinance like this, it's, okay, it may or may not be enforced. You remove it, people will have free will. They're
Well,
saying
and I
there's
think
nothing
too
that
that
can
if
stop
somebody
me.
put snow in my yard, I would not be a happy camper. So if I called and wanted that taken care of, that's on there to say,
I can
well,
take
they
care of
can't
it.
do
And
that.
and if it's not there,
I
then I
would want
have to
somebody
tell
else's
them,
snow in my yard.
no, there's nothing I
I
can
have
do
enough
about it.
snow to get off my driveway
Well,
myself.
but it doesn't go in your driveway, it goes in your
It
yard.
goes in my yard, I don't want it in my yard.
we got a lot of calls since I've been
I
here, we
don't-
got a
Are
lot
you
of
happy
calls
with the
of
structure, the
plows
city that puts
taking
it in
their,
there?
But the city can't help that, cause they're cleaning the whole snow off the street, so that snow's gonna go in
Contradicting yourself a
there.
little bit there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
so it
can't,
doesn't
don't
matter.
compare what the
That's a
city
safety
does
thing.
with what private plowers
Yeah.
do.
See, I
The
think,
cities is a necessity, it has to be done.
Yeah.
That's a
That's
necessity.
true.
Clearing your driveway is not a
I
necessity, it's a
disagree.
luxury.
how is that a luxury? If you gotta get in and out of your driveway to go to work, clearing it is not a luxury.
And a lot of people
Yeah.
do not clear their
But by
driveway.
plowing
I
it is
don't-
a luxury, because not everybody gets theirs
Right.
plowed.
I don't think it's realistic to consider the city to not put it in people's yards, but I
Just-
think
I
it is
agree.
realistic that if somebody is plowing a driveway, that they can comply with an ordinance.
Well, sure, but I guess what I'm saying is that an ordinance that we want? I'm asking you, Jimmy. I'm not disagreeing, and
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing with you in any way, shape, or form. I think we're on the exact same page. There's no way that the city can do without it, right?
But yeah, because if somebody does call, we have something.
Sure.
And you have to do that, and I'm sure that's the reason it was put in, because somebody
the
called.
calls we've got in the last 3 years are people plowing their yards straight into other people's driveways, straight into other people's yards. We honestly, I don't think we even knew that ordinance was on the books. We would just go, Joey would have went or Tim would have went and knocked on the door and said, hey, you gotta get these guys back out here. They gotta take and they would come out. So we never had to enforce it. We didn't really know there was anything like that on the books, but we do have that problem. We've just handled it,
Internally.
yeah.
Yeah, it just seems to me like we're acting upon something that doesn't have much warrant, and if it does have a little, that's one thing. I just see it as, and again, I only plow commercially, so this,
But we,
I could care less about
if
putting snow in
there
some,
are
but
complaints, we.
every
need
single house
something
I've ever lived in,
more
except for the
ongoing.
one I live in now, because I don't have a neighbor across the street, every single house ever since my whole life, people plow the neighbor's driveway, it gets pushed into your yard. It was never a big deal to anyone. My neighbors, I do theirs,
Yeah, but
do anybody's, do it for free,
probably
and
not
it's just
a big
like,
deal to the majority of the people, but we do have some people, and you know, because you get phone calls just like everybody else, that's the same ones that,
I just feel like we're over-regulating things.
Well,
it's.
I think it would.
I think it's when something in place.
I think it would just be not a matter of over-regulating. I think it would just be a matter of when complaints might come in, that it's something that can be fallen back on, you know. But
Fair
you know,
enough.
because it doesn't seem like anybody's out there to, you know, like
Enforce.
Bob is saying, is out to
Actively enforce.
actively enforce.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, if it was turned out to be a problem, you know, especially between feuding neighbors, you know, it's like, you know, they push. I know. I've had people complain about people throwing their snow from their snow blower into
That's
their
what I was
neighbor's
just
yard.
gonna say.
Yeah.
Candy
You know?
thrown into the
I guess,
street. I've seen that.
yeah.
I'll be honest, where this kind of rubbed me the wrong way is, as government, asking citizens to do something differently than the manner that government does it. So it's okay for government to put it there, it's not
The
okay.
government has to do it.
It's,
You're facing the camera.
We've
you
been
can't,
taxes
that's
for
not a
them
comparison,
too.
that's not a legitimate comparison.
That's private business to.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
or it's
it's
homeowner,
more,
I mean,
more
or
of
it's
a-
home, it's homeowner, it's not, it doesn't always have to be private business.
Do we
I
put
think it's a
something
matter
like
of-
what Jimmy just said though? Because I mean, I see a lot of that. People just throwing snow blowing straight out.
They're not, that's not permitted either.
Yeah.
Well,
Because
That would
one
be
of
in
one
the
of the things
roadway.
about
Isn't it an
throwing,
ordinance though?
one thing about throwing a snow blower, especially when you throw it straight out, the road is clear and free, right? It's passable. When you throw your snow straight out, for some reason that snow seems to sit there and freeze. And you've created an ice patch. So now who's liable if that ice patch causes an accident? It's the same as when your downspout dumps out onto a sidewalk. You slip on a sidewalk, nobody's liable in the state of Ohio. You dump your downspout onto a sidewalk and create an ice patch, now you're liable.
Well, this ordinance kind of reminds me of the no parking in the front yard ordinance.
Why is that?
Because
not
we have it,
enforced.
but it doesn't get enforced.
Fair enough.
Right,
I just-
and I suppose if it's a matter of somebody complaining about it, then at
You have
least,
something
then
to
you've
fall
got
back.
something to.
I mean,
at least-
honestly, that's fair enough, I can understand that. I guess my thing is, I just feel like, for our job's sake, when we have ordinances, the purpose of that ordinance is to be enforced. And not only enforced if somebody's complaining about it.
Yeah.
That's
I get you.
fair for
I get
everybody,
you.
so because this
Yeah.
neighbor doesn't complain, you're allowed to push it there. Because
But
this
like you
neighbor does
said, we
complain
don't
about
have the manpower to enforce that
Sure.
law amongst other laws that we have
Yeah, I
on
was
the
gonna say,
books.
there's
Sure.
a lot more that's not
Yeah.
enforced than just that. So
Well,
we
sure,
can sit
I
here
mean-
all night and go through, I'm
Well,
sure.
we can, but I'm just saying, like, that is, I don't know if you realize this, but the most important part of your job is making these ordinances to either be followed or not to be followed. This is an important job as far as law goes. So when we're saying, well, this ordinance is fine, we'll do that, we'll pinpoint this one because somebody complained about it, it kind of downgrades what you do, in my opinion. These laws aren't meant to be pick and choose about enforcement.
But-
That's
but-
true. I
but
understand.
they are.
Yeah.
I
It is,
understand,
yeah.
but that's something
You're
that,
supposed to speed, but people speed. You know
well,
what I
sure, but
mean?
if you
Like-
see them speeding, you pull them over. But there's
But you're not
no,
gonna catch everybody speeding.
For
you
sure,
know,
but
catch
there-
you know, it feels like it's one of those.
yeah, but there's no other way to go about that if you see somebody speeding. But if you're driving by somewhere and you see an ordinance being broken, which would be somebody parked in the front yard, but nobody complains, so you don't tend to it, that's completely different.
I thought we were talking about snow.
Oh, we went to the signs.
We went through a few things.
Bob, you had to bring that up.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
it's
I
kind of the
missed
same
that. Sorry.
situation.
Sorry.
But yeah, I mean, that's all. If everybody's fine with it, then let it ride. But you know,
We can definitely go out and enforce it.
But I guess my thing is, I would rather it not be there and not be enforced. I mean, to most people, I don't believe that it would be an issue or should be.
But
You know what
all
I
it
mean?
would take is somebody to call in, and then we said, well, we can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah, I
allowed
mean,
to do whatever they
When
want with their
when a
stuff.
neighbor starts complaining, and an officer goes up there and tells that plow driver, you have to put it on the own property, he has something to back him up. Otherwise, that officer can tell him that, and that guy can tell you to pound salt. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
he has an ordinance to back him up.
Yeah.
And I think that in some instances, it's, you know, getting pushed into, you know, that area where the plow comes up and then it makes somebody's driveway even more impassable. So, you know, and if it was me, if it was happening to me, I wouldn't be happy about it if we didn't have anything on the books to say,
You can't
well, there's
do
nothing
it.
you can do about it. You
Well,
know,
your
they can put that snow anywhere they want
I'm
to.
just asking, when your neighbor from across the street, do they get their driveway plowed? And if they do, then you
No,
probably don't pay
he
attention.
shovels it himself.
Okay. But Jimmy, if they pushed it into your easement in your front yard, do you care?
I wouldn't care, no. Unless
They
it was
damage
pushed over close enough to my driveway that when the plows came up and they pushed it in, you know, into my driveway, then that would be a
So it'll be on
problem.
the left-hand side of your driveway, so.
Well, yeah, and then the other one would be my
But
son's house,
even when you're shoveling your own driveway and you're piling it up at the end, you want to pile it on
The opposite
the
side.
end past your driveway.
Right.
So when they come up, they don't push it back in.
So this-
Right.
yeah.
Right.
End past your driveway.
Well, fair enough. So what do you guys want to do with the snow plowing ordinance? Just let it ride
Why
how
don't
it
we
is?
see how many complaints, like, I mean, there's a storm coming this weekend. See if you get some calls,
It's mostly
come back to us and
Yeah.
see.
But
Okay,
it's-
for the
since
next
this
2
has just been
weeks.
brought to our attention, I
Yeah.
think we should follow it this year and see
Yeah, I
what,
think we
see
should
what
too.
we're-
I mean,
Fair enough.
keep track of
absolutely.
the phone calls. or-
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe we could be like told like how many
Yeah.
real problems we're having.
Exactly, and what the problems are, if it does.
And then we can
Like I said,
tweak it from there.
I didn't mention it for
No, I
changing the
understand
ordinance
that.
or anything.
But
It was just a conversation we had, and I said, yes, we do have an ordinance on the book.
as I was reading the ordinance, though, there were just so many things in it to me that were nonsensical almost. Like we just don't need this. We just
You were here in
don't.
2014, weren't you?
Talk about
Yeah, I don't
circuit
remember
boards.
even-
Well, again,
Okay.
if you come across those, send them our way and let's bring them up to date. You know what I
There's a lot
mean?
of stuff that's out there.
We don't go through every ordinance, but one gets brought to our attention that there's something wrong with or is out of date, and you know we'd
We
rather
should go
fix
by
it. We should fix it.
Yeah,
we should go by it.
So if you come across something that you feel is nonsense or is outdated,
Well,
then please mark them and
The service
ship
board
them
one,
over.
I hope to address this year at some point. It's in our zoning ordinances,
The
so.
what?
It says
the
that
servant quarters.
quarters.
Mm.
It speaks of servant quarters. That's how.
We need to update our
That's the
zoning
zoning.
ordinances.
Okay, so we got that taken care of to an extent. Let's go to City Council's discussion on tax incentive. Anybody want to speak?
Yes. So this is still kind of, I want to say, a work in progress. I talked with Zamoyda, he has everything laid out here. He went over everything but we still have some questions. So we're gonna be meeting with Zamoida on Wednesday at 9 AM. Just to go over, Mark, a lot of this speaks to our auditor and our treasurer.
Okay.
So Mark went over it today, and there was already some questions that I can't even answer because it doesn't make sense to me. So I almost either need John to explain it to me, or we need to have a conversation with Niles to say, why is this in here, what does this mean? Because when they explained some of these things to me, I don't necessarily feel that it's exactly what it says. And Mark pointed out a few things. Mark, I don't know if you wanna speak on it?
Yeah, I mean, I did a quick read on it, and, on page 2, the subparagraph D there at the top, qualifying enterprise, at the bottom of that paragraph, allows them to hire one new employee. Is that what our intention is? And I'm not, I don't set these rules, it's up to you guys, but it does state that if they hire one new employee, they could be eligible, given, if they make a certain investment.
Well, and my question to that would be, one new employee might qualify them for a very small amount, is that correct?
I don't
No,
know.
that's what.
That's
Okay.
we move on.
And I don't think that was our intention in passing.
No, and
And-
when we talked to, go ahead.
And that's where, I think you guys need to really look through this and understand what it's saying, because I think there is some inconsistencies in this language.
Okay.
One new employee talks about a $25,000 investment, but yet below in the table, there's a $5,000 to $10,000 investment line in there.
Yeah.
I think that you just need to kind of go through, understand what it's saying, because I'm not sure, it doesn't make sense to me.
Okay.
That's all.
That's, and how it was explained to us was that they had to have a certain, like it was a high investment number and a high number of employees and a high number, but according to this, it's saying you can basically hire one employee or 1 to 3 and
Yeah.
have, so that's, I think, what we don't want. We don't want
So they
everybody
can
allowed.
interpret it in a different way.
Yeah.
We need to
I
have
would
it
say so.
interpreted for
Black and
everyone
white.
the
That's,
same.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're gonna meet with Zamoida at 9 on Wednesday, so I know everyone can't be there, but if anybody,
I can try to be.
just so we can
Like,
go over those
our
questions.
attorney could interpret this one way, but the company's attorney
Right.
will say, no, it says
Right,
this.
and we want it, and there was another part you pointed out too, Mark, we want it to say, because according to this, it says that the committee consisting of the mayor, the auditor, the treasurer, the law director, and one appointed person would be the,
It's in paragraph C on page 3. They're the oversight committee, and that committee can form a written agreement with the qualifying enterprise. I don't think that's what you guys want.
no, we want them, that if they're able to apply, and this is what maybe we need to just talk to Zamoida about, because it was explained to us different than I think what it says,
Yeah.
and that's where I'm having trouble.
I
So-
almost feel like you'd be better off starting from scratch.
And creating
Have you
our-
read this?
Our
Yeah,
own
yeah.
one.
So the way these tables work is your
We actually just got this.
it starts with
Right.
20%
Yeah.
is your
Yeah.
base. If you have 1 to 3 employees, you add 1 more percent. If you have 4 to 10 employees, you add 2 more percent, so it'd be 22%. And then if the total salary is 10 to 25, you add 3 more percent. And you keep adding percentages to it up to a maximum of 97%. That's where
Of
all
what?
the
Refund of your
annual
income tax
Right.
withholding per your
for
employees.
Right. Exactly.
So it's not just 2 employees, it's 20.
If 1 to 3 employees, you get 1%. If you have over 50 employees, you'll get 6%, but if your annual salary is only 10 to 25, you're only getting 3% on that.
That's just,
So I think we wanted it, cause, and you guys can
And
correct me if
if-
I'm wrong, we wanted it to be like a high investment and high number, like, we
Right.
want this for only, like,
So that's where
Yeah,
your high
we definitely
investment
wanted
numbers
more of
get.
minimum
Bigger-
investments.
Bigger
Yeah.
More,
business.
bigger businesses and
Yeah.
bigger,
Businesses.
But this ordinance is supposed to cover all businesses in the city, so we're not gonna have all high investment.
Right,
sure.
except for a couple.
Companies.
but that's
the point
why,
of this
the point-
is to incentivize people to come to the city, not to
Yes.
give breaks to people
Who
aren't
aren't
here.
here.
We
I
make
would
all
agree
the-
with that.
The
Right,
income
yeah,
tax
I-
money
yeah.
is what's running the whole city.
I would
Yes.
agree with that.
Yes.
Well, unless you were having some large expansion where you already owned a business here, but you were dumping $1 million into it and adding 30
Wouldn't you
employees.
be doing that anyway,
I thought somewhere.
Well, why?
right?
Why? I don't understand.
I mean, like, if you owned a big business here and you're gonna expand,
Well, why wouldn't I just leave and go somewhere where I can get
because you
a
own
fresh
a
start and an
business
abatement?
here.
So what do I own? I own the business still. The only thing
I mean, if that's what council wants to do, I just don't think that it would, the way, if council wants me and Mark to be able to read something like this and enforce it, how it's written, we can't.
No.
That's all we're saying.
Okay.
So,
fair enough. But as far as the structure of it goes,
You wanna start all over.
if
I
we have
mean,
a
it makes no
business
sense.
So,
that
the
is
biggest thing, your qualifying enterprise has to make a minimum investment of 25,000. So you can change that 25,000 to whatever you
to
want.
250,000.
Right, so that qualifies them. And
Right.
then they get the 20% kickback, or rebate.
Okay, but where,
And the
in
rest
this
of these
table,
numbers-
in this table, where is the 25,000? I don't, I see 5 to 10,000.
It says a qualifying enterprise must make a qualifying investment of at least 25,000 and apply for the said benefits and execution of an agreement,
Right,
therefore.
okay.
Okay.
In the tables,
Let me
where's
see
the
your table.
25,000?
The tables are only used to figure out the percentage of the rebate they're going to get.
I guess my question would be, how about a place like Astro Shapes where they're always putting money into their business and reinvesting money?
Right.
So, I mean, is that gonna qualify them for a tax abatement? I mean, is that what we're looking to do?
That's up to you guys.
Businesses.
I mean, but, I mean,
You guys have to
the
make
way
that
that it sounds to
determination.
me, it's like, any business that's looking to expand or
That's what I
put
thought
money
we
into
were
their business. I
getting
mean,
at.
and Astro, a place like Astro Shapes, it seems to me that they're putting money into their business all the time.
But I would,
Retooling.
I would also say, as far as we would need to be careful, because to us, we're looking for expansion of jobs just as much as we're looking for capital investment,
Right.
in my opinion.
Right.
Because you guys could break this down for me better, but to my understanding, 75% of the city's revenue roughly is from income tax, correct? I mean, roundabout, if you could give me something close, what would you say?
I don't know right offhand. I don't.
But
Chrissy?
I think in your case, the investment in the company is
Okay.
to maintain the
Major
production
minority
that
of
they
the
have.
Sure,
And
so,
meet their quotas.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean they're expanding.
Right, but I mean, but still they're investing money in their company,
Okay,
so
sure.
I mean, by,
But
if
they
you're
need-
going by,
So
But they need to compete with other companies like that.
well,
Right.
So that in order, so that your qualifying they make a qualifying investment of 25,000. We'll use Astro Shapes as an example.
Mhm.
They make a qualifying investment of 25,000. Now they become an eligible enterprise. They have to have a new employee, which means an employee hired by a qualifying enterprise, which they have because they made the investment, to perform work or render services in the city who has not been employed by the qualifying enterprise or related enterprise within the last 6 months. So if they're gonna make a qualifying investment and increase their workforce, then they would qualify for the rebate, okay?
And is it's
and-
just for those new employees?
It wouldn't be for the new employees.
If I own a restaurant, say, and I put a $25,000 roof on my restaurant and then hire a new waitress,
Then
Does that count?
that one waitress would get a rebate.
is that what we're wanting?
That's not-
yeah, and that's what I'm
That's
getting
not
at,
at all
yeah.
what
But
we're
here's the
no,
thing.
not whatsoever.
So that's why you have a committee set up to evaluate these.
But the
So you
waitress
make-
doesn't get the rebate.
No, the
Right.
employer, the
No,
No,
restaurant.
the employees pay the money.
They still
And
pay
then
it, but they get it back.
Have to
Reimburse.
we have to reimburse the business. We
Yeah,
cut them a
exactly.
check at the end of the year.
Yeah.
But that's the way it's done. I mean,
No, I agree with that, but I was just
making
making sure that,
yeah.
you
See,
know,
I
it
was under
doesn't
the
go.
impression this was supposed to read and say that they had to hit a certain high
Yeah.
level of
That's what I
investment and a
thought so,
high
too.
level
Which
of
we can set this
employees and a
criteria
high-
any way we
That's
want.
what
This is how
Exactly.
Niles said.
That's,
But I mean,
Yeah.
we can say, no, we need, we're willing to do this for 10 employees, 10 new number of employees, and a $250,000
Yeah.
You wanna set
investment.
a number higher.
But
I wanna-
yeah,
absolutely.
exactly
I
what
only
Chrissy
wanna get
explained.
to-
We don't want to be paying people using
Make
their
it
running
worthwhile.
costs,
Yeah.
okay? Yeah, I invested $25,000 here. Like she said, I got a new roof. You
Yeah.
had to get a roof anyway.
Right.
I mean, that's your
what
part
I'm
of your
saying.
cost, and
Yeah.
you're gonna write that off on your business. So that's kind of void to us, right?
Yeah.
We don't wanna be given incentives for that. Here's the way I explained it, when I spoke to Mr. Burnside about it. Our city is very unique in a few ways, okay? We have a strong electrical grid downtown due to Caslo, due to the former mills, due to Astroshapes. We have a railway. We have still some of the cheapest water rates in the state, correct? All of those things are primed for a big business. They're gonna look at all of those. Then you take in other factors, okay? It's very cheap cost of living here. So when a big business sees that, they see it's affordable for mid-level employees to live here and to flourish here. We look at our schools and our crime rate, and they're both good. So this is a viable place to attract another Astroshapes, something bigger than Astroshapes. I don't want to be foolish and short-sighted in doing the same abatement that every other city does, because you know what, Niles, they have good schools too, and they have a good power system. They have all of those things. So I want to be out ahead of them, right? I mean, that's,
Oh, I
we
agree
want to
with
be on
that,
the
yeah.
forefront from this, because
Absolutely, yeah.
long-term, getting those people here is our main goal. We're already not getting the tax revenue by not having them here. So if we have to give it up for an extended period of time to make it viable for them to come here, then that's what we have to do.
Yeah.
But in regards to what Chrissy's saying, I completely agree. It shouldn't be Don Vito's gets a roof and hires an employee, they get a tax abatement.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
really
exactly.
not what we're looking for, and I
Yeah.
agree with that.
Could you identify a geographical area, because you know there's only certain spots in this town that can hold a business?
The only thing I would,
This is our economic area.
I get it, but
American-
I guess I don't see a downside to somebody saying, well, Cafaro sold Fifth Street Plaza and somebody wants to build whatever they want there and it's gonna bring X amount of jobs. Why would we wanna deplete that? Why would we wanna not have that as a viable option?
Include citywide.
Just don't
Yes.
know how you do one and avoid the other.
I'm not sure. Can you elaborate on that?
How you attract what you want and not unnecessarily
Exclude it.
provide a
Well-
benefit where it doesn't need to be.
Well, we change the numbers on this.
To
This
more
chart here.
employees and
Correct.
higher investment or just new business.
No, I
Well,
would say
still,
more employees.
I think that, you know, a place like Astroshapes could fall into that category where, okay, we're gonna put on a new tooling, thing, and we're gonna hire 3 or 4 employees, but, you know, in trying to really keep track of something like that with a big business, I think would be very difficult to monitor.
See, yeah, well, I agree. To me, the number of jobs has to be much higher. Much higher. When you're
Yeah,
even
I mean,
not even 3
it's
or
got-
4. Like,
Right, it's gotta be something that's
listen,
noticeable.
we're looking to pull
Yeah,
in.
I mean,
we're,
that is
you
just
know,
obvious.
We're looking to pull in a viable
In
company.
that AstroSafe scenario,
Yeah.
say they did add a whole new thing with new employees.
Mhm.
You're not gonna give the percentage back on every employee
No,
they
just-
have.
No, it would just be the
Just
new
one.
Just
employees.
So-
the new one.
So
me
it would be
throw
a lot
another
less
example out,
incentive for
too.
them based upon, you know, adding a new branch and getting, say, 30 employees
Right.
versus a company coming in like Astroshapes
With
and
a
building here with
200
300
employees.
So
employees.
let me
Right.
throw another example out to you. You got a marijuana dispensary going in.
Mhm.
It probably cost them a couple $100,000 to put this thing in.
Sure.
Because they had to put a safe, security system, everything else. So they invested more than enough money to qualify.
Mhm.
But they're only gonna have 3, maybe 4 employees.
But they shouldn't qualify then.
But
Because
they-
our-
but
because-
their sales and everything else is going, they're going to benefit the city of Struthers.
But
And those 3 or 4 employees are gonna be paid handsomely.
They're only looking to have 3 or 4 employees?
Well, I don't know how many they are.
I would think,
Close to 15.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
But you know what I'm saying? There was a large investment for them to come here, and they might only have a couple employees that they paid 50, 60,000 a year. That's still tax revenue that's beneficial to the city.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
So they
Yeah.
wouldn't qualify.
Or
But
even,
then they
So you
never.
got-
Well, they would under this.
They would under this.
But-
Right, but they wouldn't under a
And-
broader.
and
I think
that's
you've all
where I think-
established you don't wanna do.
That's where you guys need to come up with your parameters.
Right.
You know.
well, I think that
We
it
could
would be
follow this.
beneficial that both of you were involved with that.
Yeah, I would agree.
I would be happy
Yeah.
to, but, you know, I mean, but I think the discussion needs to be among you guys as well.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I mean,
Well, I think I think where we're having a problem is we're trying to weed out Chrissy's point, because I believe you're right. In the point of somebody, again, fixing their roof and putting on an employee just to qualify for this. All right, but I also would agree with Mr. Benson's point that these people spent hundreds of thousands of dollars here, created a few new jobs, and started a new business here. I'm not saying that they should be at the top of the abatement, but they should definitely qualify for something as an incentive to come here.
and I
Yeah.
think, Bob, that's what the tables do.
That's what the
right?
table does. So if you only put on a roof, hire one employee, you're not getting 70% rebate. You're gonna get a 21%.
On
Well,
that.
Rebate.
maintenance,
On that
maintenance
one
shouldn't
employee.
be considered.
Should not be.
No, it shouldn't,
It
maintenance
shouldn't be in
shouldn't be
that
considered
ordinance.
Well,
something.
Investment's
It's still
investment.
investment.
Right, it's
Yeah.
still, so
And who's
what that
going
20% does, he put that roof on, he's
inspect it?
staying.
be the person
You know what I'm saying?
that determines if it counts, don't count?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just,
Well, that would have to be the committee that you're talking about setting up
Right.
and making a
Which needs to
determination.
go
as-
over all the numbers and
That,
everything,
because
right, set a number.
the actual business would have to apply for this anyway.
Yes.
Yes.
And-
But on
and
here, it's saying
it would
that
have
the
to be
committee can
approved.
approve,
Correct.
by a committee.
Right.
but we want how we wanted to say how we normally do, where it would go to the committee would either like kind of vet it, then it would come to council.
Like the
if it-
zoning
Like
commission,
the zoning
yeah.
commission, then it would come to council for approval. So
Is
it
it
wouldn't,
for
like,
existing business, is it just for new business?
That's-
Like, there's
That's
all
it.
these
Yeah,
things
that's a-
that
that's
we
a
determine,
I know.
right?
sure.
You know,
But
'cause-
understand this too. This is the first time we've seen this system.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Prior to 10 minutes ago, we have only heard this in discussion.
Yeah,
We
and
have
we-
not,
when I talked to Mark too, it's not, we would like to have it by the end of the year because of some potential things happening, but it's also something that we don't wanna rush and mess up and do it the
Exactly.
wrong way.
yes, I agree.
So it does have to be done the right way, and I just don't wanna miss out on an opportunity.
Yeah, I agree.
But it was
But this is a
proposed to
long-term,
us as like last minute too.
this is a long-term investment more or less for the city when we do
Yes.
give this abatement. That,
Yeah.
like I said, up front, it's gonna be business as usual up front because we're not getting a big number of tax revenue from this.
How
But on the back
How long
end-
did the other people know about this company possibly coming in? I mean, did they just hear about it last
Mhm.
week too?
Yes.
Really?
Mhm.
I find that hard to believe.
I do too.
Yeah, you know, and not just that, but even a place like Ace Hardware. I mean, you know, trying to attract somebody to get into these into the plaza,
Yeah.
some of these vacant places in the plaza. I mean, you know,
Right.
somebody that's thinking about opening up a I don't know,
Well,
a
guess-
gun shop or anything, you know, to say, yeah, well, Struthers would be a good place, you know, because I'm not going to have to, you know, I've got a tax
Yeah.
abatement that's
So I
going
guess
on
the
for 5
challenge
years
is,
or whatever.
Jimmy, we know exactly what we wanna do,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We're just trying to sort out now how to get rid of loopholes so people can take advantage of it, which
Yes.
people have been taking advantage of the tax department for years and years and years.
Well, that's
I'm
where
not saying just
these
here,
two
I'm
come
saying
in and our attorney comes in.
federally, but this is gonna take a little doing to try to
Sure.
mitigate as much as possible. We might not be able to get rid of every little cork. Somebody still might be able to find a wormhole
But
here
we
or
can get
there,
something started.
but we can get as close as we can get
And we
and
can always
still
amend
be as
if we need
beneficial
to.
as possible, you know what I
And
mean?
too, like 10 jobs at $30,000 piece, that's only $6,000. That's not a, you know what
Yeah.
I mean, like that,
But also, it's
it,
like we
in
were
order to
saying.
make it worth it for the people, like, to come in to get a benefit,
Well, that's
these would
why,
be much larger,
agreed.
Oh, yeah.
investments, companies,
Sure.
business.
See, I was thinking more or less like once in a lifetime like Astor Shapes coming
Yeah.
here and
Yeah.
wanting to say, hey, we need to pitch you against all these other people. What do you have? Can you offer the same thing or more?
That's why I was
So
explaining,
not so much,
Right.
not so much the smaller. I was
Sure.
thinking more
But
employees.
but he's got a good
more
point too. Why
investment.
not help out the small
Yeah.
investment?
Yeah.
I got $25,000, $30,000 to invest in one of our dilapidated buildings, and so you give them 20% back on your $6,000
Couldn't you
for
come
5
up
years.
with a different kind of incentive than this? Because this seems
Right.
like an awful lot, that person is not gonna benefit that much, the person who's coming with the few, we're talking about
Agreed.
2%
agreed.
of what
Yeah.
they're paying their people.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not gonna be worth the time
Yeah.
for a committee, Mark and I, to figure out who
Yeah,
owes
so if they
what
have a
and pay 'em.
30% labor cost, it's 2% of their 30%. it's not,
going to be.
yeah, I mean,
So
it's
if
2% of a third,
perhaps there
it's
is-
70.7%
perhaps
of their
there's some
overall running
other
cost, that's
incentive
not,
we can come up with for
So
that
we should
scenario
gear,
for
we should gear this towards big businesses and then come up with something for the
A
everyday.
different
Maybe.
Yeah.
formula
Yeah,
that
it's not-
fits more what we're.
So for right now, you're just looking at something that's more, something that's just big.
Yes.
You know,
But I
not,
think-
not worried about these smaller details,
But,
at least
like-
right now, but having something on the books by the end of the year
Yes.
that would accommodate the scenario that
Yes.
could possibly take place
Yes.
here.
and I would agree.
Yes, but I'd
Okay.
still, like Chrissy said, like to look at something
Sure,
for new
absolutely.
businesses, whether
Yeah.
it's like a smaller.
Well,
I
we,
agree.
talk
Yeah.
about facade
I think
grants all the
we're
time, like,
obligated to if we offer this to big businesses. I think we're
to offer
obligated.
something to the
Yeah,
smaller
absolutely.
Yeah, I would agree.
local businesses.
I agree with that 100%.
Even if it's, I know a long time ago we did not that long ago, we did the facade grant.
Oh,
and
yeah.
we matched. Even if it's like a $5,000 match where we can offer Young Sunbone Road or any of those
Instead of
other
a
Yeah.
places.
facade, you could be like, if you come and invest, we'll give you a
We'll just
grant
give you-
of this
Yeah,
much
well,
money.
instead of a facade grant, we should just make it a small
Business
business grant.
Grant,
Yeah.
yeah. There,
Yeah.
now, that would have to be heavy stipulations too.
Sure,
You
absolutely.
know what I mean, that we can't allow
Right.
people to take advantage of that or have their sights set just upon that,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
but yes. Yeah, I agree,
Something
and
that's paid out over a couple years.
sure, and
Right.
yes, absolutely, because you don't want people going out of business in 6 months
And,
saying,
and
try
the
this, took your
marijuana shop
money
would
and.
fall right into that.
Yes, but maybe you both hit on something really good. Maybe the answer isn't, one tax incentive for everybody. Maybe it's, we gear this towards
Business
large
sizes,
businesses,
yeah.
and we come up with something completely different that would actually benefit the small businesses a lot better than this, because this,
Yeah.
you got 4 employees, like Chrissy's saying, this ain't doing nothing for you.
Yeah.
This ain't, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? That isn't enough to make you come here, it isn't enough to even help you out that much.
Yeah.
But if you got 250 employees and you got a couple $1 million
Right.
payroll a
That's
year,
different.
completely different scenario, and I think that that's what we had in mind when we discussed this.
More revenue.
But it's not what we,
Correct.
especially Mark, when he went over word for word, that's,
Yeah.
it's just not clear.
And again, none of us have really had a chance to go over this yet, so,
Mhm.
you know,
No.
but at the end of the day, I think we all know what we had in mind. And in my opinion, when we were gearing towards a larger business, Mark, I'll just be very upfront. I wanted to be as aggressive as possible because I want us to stand out against other places, especially for the reasons that I just named about our infrastructure, cost of living, schools, all of those things. When a large company is going to come in and invest $100 million, they're looking at every single one of those and they're rolling all of that up and seeing how it's going to benefit them and how it's going to fare against another place. They're going to take every one of those. So every advantage that we can get in that department, we already were on top of a few of those. School's good, water cheap,
Or even
electric
having
here.
water.
Yes.
Parts of the, like, West Coast, there's no water.
So hopefully
Like,
hopefully for, if we can be aggressive to a big business with a large tax incentive, hopefully that's enough to get a 500 job business here that makes a difference to the city.
I
Make it
think,
work for 'em.
I think
Yes.
we can be aggressive because this property's sat idle for so many
Oh,
years.
yeah,
and we
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
get anything
Yeah.
for it.
Right. Sure.
So we can be aggressive
So
with
what are
it
you
because it
talking
doesn't
about
matter.
though, when you say aggressive?
Aggressive to me is this.
What's your opinion?
My opinion on aggressive is more than anybody else around us is offering.
So
More than
they're
other
offering
viable
70.
candidates. So we look at places like this place that we spoke of, which I don't know what is and I don't know if anybody does. But there was some choices in play. How do we stack up against those
Just
choices?
remember this, when you brought that up and Shay was standing over there and you asked whether a more aggressive plan would be very beneficial, he says, not a whole lot.
Why though?
Yeah, I would disagree with
Because
that.
you got, this reaches up to
location.
97% of your rebate. So you go 98%, it's not that much more, and it's not gonna.
But what if you kick it out over a longer term?
Yeah, I mean, instead
Well,
of
there's other
3
ways
years,
to
it's
look
5
at it, you
years.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like I said,
Yeah, instead of 5, give them 10.
this is an
I
investment.
honestly
Yeah,
don't
that's all it
understand
is.
Even this.
Okay, so the way it works,
Years?
you
I was
start,
talking to Mark, I don't know.
you start with
I understand the
20%.
table
Now,
pretty
you
well.
look at
I
You
know.
understand the
the
table?
table is only used to figure out the percentage. That's all these tables are for. You start with a 20% base. The number of employees, if you have over 50 employees, you get 6% more. If you have over 1.4 million in revenue, you get another 18%.
Seems
Okay.
unnecessary.
If your investment is $600,000 on a property that's been vacant, you're gonna get 24%. If that property has been vacant for over 6 months. If your qualifying purchases are over 600,000, you get another 10% if it's over 6 months vacant.
So you get a percentage for a number of employees, and you get a percentage added to that for the amount of money that's invested.
Right. Then the
Seems
qualifying
overly
equipment and
Complicated.
whether
I
you
agree.
use public sector finances, if you don't use any public sector finances for your business, you get another 7%. Altogether, if you got the maximum percentage of everything, it comes up to 97%. That's the maximum amount.
It just seems overcomplicated.
It is complicated because the way this is set up is the small investor, the $25,000 minimum investment investor, isn't going to get that big of a percentage.
So
They're
here's
going to
the
get a
thing.
20%, maybe
For someone to
21%.
say to you, it wouldn't matter to be more aggressive because what are you going to get if you're going to give 1% over? Yeah, but what if you don't have to have all this?
Correct, the
stipulations
criteria,
in
right.
it?
When he was
But-
talking, that was
I mean,
exactly
that's
what I
like-
was thinking.
These criteria are set up for the small investor and the large investor. So the more you invest, the more employees you have, and everything else, the bigger your tax.
Yeah, but like
abatement.
how long the land was vacant, whose money
Right.
you're using, what do we care?
Yeah.
None
Exactly.
of that should matter.
Matter
So
to us,
maybe
yeah.
we just
It
need
should
to
be
talk to
amount of
John
money,
and
the
almost
employees,
rewrite our
Correct.
you get
Yeah,
a
I
big
think
group.
so too.
Correct.
And
And
keep in
that's
mind, we're
more
looking to attract,
enticing, I think.
you know, some
Yeah.
big business, that's what we're looking at right now. I
High
mean,
number
the
of
smaller
employees, high
businesses,
number of
yeah.
investment, high
Okay,
number
where
of,
I mean,
you're
we
putting
can-
it or whose
and
money
we
you're
can
I agree.
maybe just do our own.
So what,
Use this
what,
as a
You can use this as a
tool.
template, I mean.
Yes.
it's,
Well, sure.
you know,
Kind
but-
of-
But
Now-
we're gonna have to go
So
over
would
and
the red-
change this
would
and
the red
perfect it
zone-
Put it
to
to
for
what you
us.
want.
Yeah.
No.
they're bringing in all
They-
the new jobs.
They would have been,
Calendar
if this would have been in effect when they took over, they would have been qualified
Right.
under this plan,
Who's
yes.
that?
I'm sorry, who were you
Because they
saying?
have the qualifying investment. Now, they wouldn't have got the percentage for no public financing. They wouldn't have got, they would not have got that 7%.
Right.
Okay, so their investment could not have reached 97%. But there's other factors, yes, they would have been qualifying.
Bob, who was that you had?
Yeah, now,
Red zone.
as
The
far,
red
okay, now
zone
this
up
is
in
one
north
type
south.
of tax abatement. How about
Oh,
the,
okay.
you know, property taxes? You know, if
They
they're
already
buying this
offer that.
property,
There's something, I don't know what Castle filed, but they already offer the property tax. And this was another question.
Odd, I was like, shouldn't we have something like?
I would have thought so.
something to say about it.
But
yeah.
We asked Sarah that day, she's like, we already offer it. I've asked her that before.
How
When I
would
talked to
you
her,
offer
she
that
said we
without
never
us
talked
Yeah.
about that. So I don't know.
saying?
And,
Not that I'm against it.
no, I'm not
but
either, but I
Right.
guess my thing would be,
in the
if
school.
we were gonna get a huge business here, let's say somebody was gonna come in, we would wanna TIF that regardless, correct, Chrissy? I mean,
Yeah.
I think,
But in this way, you're not. She's saying it's not a TIF. In the TIF, they're paying, and we're doing something else with that money. In her scenario, they're getting a break on the property tax.
well,
not
I
paying
understand,
it.
I understand that as well. I do understand that, I just don't know how they can get around that without coming to the city.
That's what she said.
And my other question was this, with my knowledge of property taxes, I don't know how the city gets around it without going to the county, because the taxes get appropriated to the county. You know, but in,
From what I thought she
And the
had
school
said,
gets some.
they had to file a lot of paperwork with the county to get that abatement.
But shouldn't the
Okay.
city
The
have signed
county-
off on
That's
that?
what Chrissy's saying. That's what,
The
Yeah.
county sets
Yeah.
the property tax.
Correct.
The county assessor
Yeah.
sets that, so that's your primary.
and the property tax is
Certainly-
based off a percentage,
about our
correct? Which
millages,
every
though,
is
for
the same of
all
your
of
property's
our
worth.
Fire.
It might be
levies?
1.4%
Are they-
annually,
how
that's
do
what you pay
they-
tax, correct?
Decide we don't want that.
I don't know. I think I assumed that
Okay.
it was already discussed before
Okay.
me. It was something
Well,
that was already set. So
again-
the way she said it, it was already.
I understand all of that, but as far as our residents go, to be honest, and all we're here at this table looking to do, everybody, is look out for our residents in the city as best we can.
By increasing, yes.
Correct. So, but if we were able to give something up, the property tax would be the easiest thing for us to give up because we get the least percentage of it. That's just
Yeah.
being honest.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
not me saying, I don't care about the schools, I don't care about the county. We get a small percentage, our residents, of property tax. that would be the first thing, as everybody looking to benefit our
An
residents
incentive.
should say, yes, that's we take the property tax back, because we only get 15% of it.
I can
Yeah.
talk to Sarah and ask her how that took place,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
But I think in
I-
any regard, I
just
think
brought that up today.
we're probably on board with, if that was gonna bring somebody here,
Sure.
we're not really that
Oh, yeah.
interested in the property tax, it's
Yeah.
peanuts.
Yeah, in Columbiana, I mean, they have a 10-year tax abatement for people
15.
building.
15 years.
15 years?
15 years.
I have
You know,
friends-
building a new house, I mean, you
have
know,
friends that bought land, build a house, and they're in their 13th, 14th year, they're selling their house, building a
Building
new
again,
one.
yeah.
Because they're just
Then
gonna
they
keep
won't have to
building
pay
every
the
13,
property
14 years.
tax,
They don't
yeah.
wanna pay
On a
property
new home
tax.
down there, annual property tax is probably somewhere around $5,000 a year. 15 years, it's 75 grand incentive. Just
what does a place
But
like
they're
Astro
creating-
Shapes pay?
Correct, I mean,
Pay
they-
yearly in property tax?
Property?
that's
I don't
tough.
know.
I
I
know
don't
that
know.
We could
when they built the
pull
building,
it up and
well,
see it.
again, like
Find out.
like Mr. Brenner had said, it goes off of how much your facility land value and property value is worth. The county issues a percentage based off of that. So everywhere pays the same. It might be 1.2%, might be 1.6%, but that's how they're appropriated. So whatever their worth was valued at. And it probably wouldn't be as a company, it would probably be as just the building and land, correct?
Right. Yeah, it's
With
not
that
based
is-
on, it's not
correct.
based on sales, it's not
So
based.
with that goes off
And
of-
that kind of abatement seems like it's just, you know, pretty simple.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
Yeah.
you don't need a formula to,
No.
you know, this percentage of this and whatever, and.
Yeah, I have no idea what they would actually pay, but I'm sure it's.
But I mean, a new business coming, and you know, thinking, okay, hey, we don't have to pay taxes
This is
for.
before you, but when we TIF'd Aqua, Ohio, when they built their building. When we got into the TIF program with them, which is a diversion of their tax dollars, and it all goes into a separate account. So they still pay it, but it doesn't get distributed the same way. It all goes into an account that has to be used
Only in
the vicinity.
There's
Yeah.
certain
Okay.
criteria.
I
Um,
would, there's an, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Chrissy.
The only other thing I would say with this too is the way we spend money, okay? We're getting taxes all through the year and this is what we're basing our expenses on and spending money. How does this happen where at the end of the year now, I'm gonna cut these people a check? So like, do we isolate their money and it?
And it's not at the end of the year, it's into the first quarter of the next year.
Okay.
So is it sitting in like a fiduciary fund? Because it's not real, it's our money, but it becomes an expense, we have to
Well, it's
expend
gonna
it.
be,
So
yeah.
it's kinda gonna be hard to,
Well, you're gonna
for the
have.
first couple years, you know.
It should probably be in
pay-
some type of escrow account, correct? Because it's really not our money to spend. If I rent you a house and you
I
pay
think it depends on how you do that,
Okay.
what that says. Cause they're gonna pay their taxes like normal, right?
Yes.
well, when,
You get the
if,
refund check at the end,
So we have to send
And
that.
then they apply
They have
and
to,
we
they have to submit the information as to what, exactly what they did,
How many
and,
employees
and,
would that be?
and
We
then
even-
it goes through and
if I were to rent you a house and you pay me a security deposit, that security deposit supposedly legally, I can't commingle in my funds. That has to sit in a
Right.
separate escrow account so that it is ready to give back to you. And it would be foolish for me to use it at my discretion and then have a point where I have to give it back and I don't have it. So I would assume.
But it is revenue for the purposes of the city of Struthers. It's
Yes.
coming in as revenue
Yep.
and it's gonna have to go out as an expense.
Yes.
So, if it's something that we would do or it would come to fruition, we really have to think about
How
how
it's
you
going
would
to be
set
treated.
that up and treat
How you
it.
appropriate it.
Because there are, you know, beyond what's happening here,
so you'd
the
have
way
to do
we
it kinda like how
report our
we
money.
do our millage thing.
You'd have to do almost a line item
Yeah,
for
like,
that
Yeah.
expense.
yeah,
So it would show as revenue and then as an expense. So we'd probably have to set something
The hard part is
separate up
setting
for
it up, if they apply halfway through the year, setting it up as a line item expense would be.
So there's
even
just a
more
lot of
difficult.
logistics and moving parts. I mean, I'm sure it could all be figured out, but there's
Yeah.
a lot to think about.
Well, we all do need to go home and read this. Maybe not-
Homework?
Yes.
It's not a
But
busy
were
time.
thought I was
any
done with that.
questions, and I didn't even go into the one
But-
thing,
yeah.
next one. but we're gonna sit down with Moida, and maybe it's better if we just scrap this entire thing and do our own.
Maybe
Should we
there's
go with
other
two?
communities who have them
Yeah, but
that
we
Look
wouldn't
at
be in a
somebody
rush,
else's, yeah.
we
For
wouldn't
the
be in a
other-
rush
yeah.
for the other one, for the smaller
So we gotta
local
gear
businesses.
this more towards big business.
Yeah.
Well, from speaking with John today, he thought that these two were gonna be the most intricate part
These
of, yes,
Chrissy and Mark.
Chrissy and Mark,
Yep.
in
Absolutely.
developing it.
Sure.
Because his knowledge was limited in
That.
the mechanics of this, you know, so I think we all know what we want, we just
Mhm.
don't know how to get there, I guess.
We'll get there.
I think you do though. You need to write a piece of legislation that only talks to the big get,
Yep.
and then worry about the other stuff later,
Yeah.
Fair enough.
right?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
that's
Well, I think
it.
that
That's
moves
where
us in
we're
the
at.
right direction, yeah,
As
then,
long as we don't forget about the other people.
yes,
Sure.
yes.
I mean, we have to do that as well.
Well, I have a request for facades for budget talk, that I didn't talk to her about yet. But
Well,
that's not till the beginning of next year,
Right,
but if we
but
could
I'm
do
gonna
that
say this.
differently.
Maybe that money's better geared towards piggybacking to small business
Yeah,
off of
I
this.
think.
You know what I mean,
But-
instead of a facade.
Change
But
the
you're
fund
not
for
gonna have a ton of, money to play with next year.
We had a lot of expense with the fire
Yeah,
truck,
we
the
spent a lot
ambulance,
of money
the
this year.
fire station, a lot of
Everything's expensive.
things that we had,
That's what happens when you print money. Everything
Well,
gets
not-
expensive.
really, it wasn't in the original.
We will not have a lot of,
Carry it.
Discretionary funds.
discretionary fund, no. I'm considering the first 3 months of the year doing necessary spending. I've never done that in all the years I've been
Hey,
here.
I love necessary spending.
So instead of like, we do the emergency spending, which is like, this
You
is the
should-
next,
You
not
sh-
as bad, but
You should implement necessary
Only
spending
necessary
9 months a
spending.
year.
We already do.
And then the other
And then
3
the
months,
emergency-
yeah, that's
Emergency-
right.
Everybody knows emergency spending comes,
sure they do, but are they listening?
No.
You know how many people, ask Mark how many people I yelled at today.
Alright, so we're gonna go home and all read this,
I guess.
and
like,
I
that's
assume,
not when we,
Doesn't
now
mean
here's
we're
the
gonna
other
assume we're gonna
question.
get back
Yeah.
to these two.
We're gonna talk to John early on Wednesday. Is it something that either you guys can stop in or I can
I can
email
be here.
whatever
Yeah.
we come up with before the meeting so you guys have a chance
Yeah.
to look at it before the meeting or come in early or
You mean with the numbers and
I mean, is this something you're
Whatever.
looking
Are
to
you
pass
thinking you're
next
gonna
week?
pass something Wednesday?
we talked about bringing something out
Then
and
they're gonna
passing.
need to give you the threshold that they're
Yeah.
interested in
But
passing.
I think that that's possible for us all to kind of come up with and have a 20-minute, half-hour discussion prior to next meeting, whether we're coming in early or figuring something out with, once we read this, where we feel the threshold should be.
But
So
Megan's
they already
gonna
have
need
it.
to actually print it up.
I'm gonna have
for
to
you.
type it and everything.
Yeah.
We'll just
Right.
handwrite it on here, it's just, I mean, it's,
They already have a
Still
business that
counts.
wants to come in is what,
Maybe.
so there's already business that wants to come in.
listen, we've passed
And we're
legislation
thinking that
Well,
this
the
is
key
gonna be
points
really
were written
easy
next to
here,
it.
so
I-
In order to
Supposedly.
keep us
Supposedly.
in the qualifying, in order to keep us in the race with a company that I don't even know what the name is, because there's a non-disclosure and everything.
So, and truly,
Keep us in the
mystery.
running.
a company
So
that
you
even
don't
if they,
even know
Done by
what
the end of the
company it is.
No.
but even if they choose us, we might
We could
choose
get
them,
more.
that's the
That's
possibility.
a
worth the
possibility.
So
If
that's
it's
why
something
we're
like-
kinda
if it's
like-
something
So the
that-
11th is too late.
How can you
Is that the
bring
next
these
regular
city
meeting?
things?
They said by the end of the year.
So in other
Yeah,
words,
I agree.
Castro, they're asking us for this. They don't know who it is either?
They do, but they have they have to sign a
I
non-disclosure.
think that's wrong in general.
I do too.
If they're coming to the city and asking for
Well-
perks,
before.
By,
But if they-
with a deadline.
But here's the problem, if they sign a non-disclosure, they're a management company, if they sign, they legally
I
can't do
know
that.
that,
You
but
know
I
what I
think
mean?
it's wrong.
I agree with you. But here's the flip side, like I just told Kathy, we could try to get all of this done, and we do go through and we get it all done, and this business picks us, and it's a business that we don't want in our
We
city.
can say no.
Okay.
We could say no, that.
Can we still say
Oh,
no?
absolutely.
Absolutely, we can
Yeah.
always say no.
That's
We
why
can
this
always
is on here.
amend
It's
this,
not-
We can always say no.
If
That's
a
why we
less
want it to come
desirable
to council.
business is coming in down there, we have the authority to say,
Yes.
yeah, we offer this, but this isn't something that we want here, and we're not offering.
Or you can put it in here.
Well, that's how it would be.
Yeah.
That would be the only way that, in my
Yeah.
opinion, that I would vote
With
for
the
it.
It goes
full
through
council.
that
Correct.
first, right?
Correct.
A
It would go,
committee?
like, we wanna set it up how the zoning is, so it would go to the committee first, so they can have a chance, we can have a chance to vet it first, so we're not just getting any random company coming to you guys. And then say, like, give our recommendation, and then it comes to you guys, and you guys are the final decision, so you
So
can
there's
say
no
no,
committee yet.
yes.
Or-
Well,
I mean,
then,
you'll
not
send
until
it
we
in
do
the-
this,
Oh.
but it would be,
But it would go through both. It would go to the committee first, then to council.
yes.
You gotta get busy.
Does it cost them money to file for the
You gotta-
application?
I think it's
Well, you
$50.
guys got to tomorrow.
Same as snow plowing? You guys nuts? These guys are
I'll be
bringing
busy on
$100 million
Tuesday, maybe.
here.
Reading about
And
it.
you're over here pushing around a little guy with a plow.
Our budget
You're the
is not
numbers
as
guy.
Chrissy says it is, I think I'm gonna have to start enforcing that snow plow.
All right, anybody
I
have
agree with you, Bob.
any? Please, Lori, me and you just ain't seen eye to eye
Not
lately.
tonight, yeah, in the last few weeks.
It's all right.
Yeah,
Talk about
that's
ODOT
just.
But you have a beard and you're keeping it trim, I'm impressed.
I appreciate the back and forth here.
That's coming out.
But, you know, the people have a say against that. They don't like my beard, they don't vote for me.
Program at
There you
all.
go.
This is true. Money for it.
So that's why Jimmy told me to make sure I clean it up before I come in
It
today.
might be
Yeah, just like I
This
did.
I will.
Gas, like,
And that's.
Okay, anybody else, anything for finance and legislation?
Nope.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned.
Second, meeting adjourned.
Merry Christmas.
I read that.
All right, everybody.
He's not doing anything.
Yeah.
Mark, I'm pushing all this snow in front of your yard.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas. Just like double what it should have been.
348 of that is all.
Mark, what's your schedule like here?
Oh, yeah, I know.
Whenever I come in, I mean, I can be
what is
here,
good?
I
Whenever I
can be
come
here,
in,
you know, pretty much any
I just
time.
would like before next week maybe to sit down with you for
Merry
20
Christmas.
minutes.
Thank you.
You bet, you bet.
20 minutes or so, sit down with you.
Yeah, let me know.
About this.
Let me know what
I
works
have
for you.
gaps and things that, you know,
Um,
I
and
pretend
I
I
can-
know what I'm talking about,
I
but
can
I
pretty
really
much,
don't.
Wednesday, or Monday's out,
Okay,
I'm gonna have a hospital on Monday, so.
no worries.
Dallas thinks if he talks louder and faster.
Yeah, that's how I usually
Yeah.
get over on people that way.
Hey, would someone be willing to take me home?
I'll take you.
I have a car.
Okay.
I don't have a car.
My car might be warm.
Were you gonna pull my chair out, Mike?
Well, we're gonna hold you if we push you.
Oh,
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas,
everyone.
everyone.
Oh, yeah, this is it.
Merry Christmas. The other
Got everything
ones,
done.
not so much.
okay tomorrow.
Dallas.
I'm afraid to see who's gonna come up,
This
wake
week
up
or next
tomorrow
week?
with flu.
Next week.
Next week? Tuesday or Wednesday?
Yeah, Tuesday or Wednesday would be great.
Is she feeling
Let me know.
better?
What time
Okay.
Tuesday? If
Kate's
it's
starting to
Tuesday, I'm
feel a
off on
little bit
Tuesday,
better.
so I could
She's
join
actually
in
gonna
with
go
you.
I'm good anytime.
eyes tomorrow.
shoot
I
me
was
a
kinda
text.
nervous, I'm like,
I'm
Yeah,
on
good.
my
I'm
way.
on.
I'm
it's
Sitting
already
around
past
brainstorming.
that threshold, so like
20
I
minutes.
get charged for the appointment anyways.
Sunshine
Oh,
Okay. How, what constitutes?
Three.
law. More than 4 people is a sunshine law without.
So that's
Yeah.
what, 3 or
Anything
less?
more than three.
Okay,
Anything more than
all right, we'll try to set up 2 shifts.
yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, what if I stand out of the doorway?
What if one of us walks out of the room every
One of
5
them was on
minutes?
the phone.
Sure, certain people would be happy about it.
Not me, I didn't say anything.
I'm not going back.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry
Thank
Christmas,
you.
everyone.
Do you want me to take Lori out the parking lot?
Yeah.